Hey everyone, this is Manly Badass Hero, and welcome to Locked, a visual novel where you're locked in a room with an anime girl, and you don't really seem to know why. For man may prefer what he can do to what he cannot do. The state he is in to its absence or change, though necessity has made it in itself unalterable. John Locke. I wake up. I had a good night's rest. In terms of my quality of sleep, I have nothing to complain about. I didn't have a nightmare, nor any other kind of dream, for that matter. I haven't been this comfortable in a long time, and yet, the sight before me is something quite unusual to wake up to. Shoes. How often are feet the first thing you see upon waking up? Depends what you're into, I suppose. I would wager it is quite a rare event. I cannot even come up with a scenario where this is likely to occur. Except, of course, my own. Clearly, I am looking at a pair of shoes right now, so the probability must be non-zero. It suddenly occurs to me that feet are connected to people. Nice outfit. So you're going with the full theme here. Is your name Locke and Key? Last name Key? Oh, thank goodness. You have come too. I have to admit, I was beginning to miss you. The person I've talked to previously was much less pleasant. My cheeks flushed upon hearing an open declaration of affection from such a beautiful stranger. Wait, stranger? She isn't a stranger at all. That's right. I've been longing to speak to her. How do you feel? Very good. I'm glad to find myself in so desirable company. The feeling is mutual. There is nothing I want more than to talk to you right now. Feel free to discuss anything in this room that catches your interest. I will gladly do so. How about those shoes? Oh, hello. Can I scroll around? I thought it was just a pure visual novel. Can I scroll down? Maybe not. What's on the left? What is such an old computer doing here? Old? Do you characterize it as such due to its size? It is true that, as technology advances, it becomes better at creating more efficient, smaller parts. On the other hand, if a modern computer is very large, we assume it to be proportionally powerful. But this computer's size has no correlation to its age, nor to its computational power. It is built that way for a much more simple, if not primitive, reason. It is supposed to fit a human inside. What? Is someone being kept there against their will? Of course not. There's no need to worry. It is merely an exhibition object. In fact, everything around us is but a buffet to provide us with topics to discuss. This computer in particular might be the most interesting. Are you familiar with the Chinese room argument? I don't think so. Would you care to explain it? Gladly. It is a thought experiment, so please open your mind to a hypothetical scenario. Suppose you do not know any Chinese, and are put into a room. In that room you find the rulebooks that tell you precisely how to convert a given combination of Hanzi to a new string of characters. Occasionally you will receive letters through a mail slot from outside the room. You write down answers according to the rulebooks and send them back out. Since you follow the rules diligently, your answers are perfectly intelligible, and the people outside assume you are a fluent Chinese speaker. But are you? Evidently not. From looking at the characters alone, I have no means of learning to understand them. No matter how long I pursue this task, I would never become capable of speaking Chinese. Indeed, The human inside the room cannot speak Chinese. There's no question about it. And since the programming of computers is analogous to the rulebooks you use, it is supposed to show the same thing about them. That computers, no matter how well they can simulate understanding, do not have any. But there is one aspect about this thought experiment that has been seemingly overlooked. I kind of reversed the words there, same meaning. Namely, the person inside might still be capable of speaking some language. Clearly, you are brought into the room with an understanding of English, but you are never prompted or given the opportunity to use it. Judging you based on your Chinese abilities is quite unfair. Being stuck inside the Chinese room would be pitiful and terrifying. So what if a computer also has its own native language? What if it even had feelings and needs, with no means of communicating them to the outside world? Even though the Chinese room argument is a mere thought experiment, it exposes a very worrisome fact about artificial intelligence. That is, if a computer somehow comes to obtain emotion, it would be an existence of utter despair. So, lobotomy core? While interesting, I don't think this is a real concern. It is highly unlikely that we somehow already discovered how to artificially create emotion. Your design kind of reminds me of Angela. If anyone knows that game. I admit that is unlikely. It would be no exaggeration to call it a miracle even. Yet we would have no way of knowing whether that miracle has already occurred. Said unlucky computer would suffer in silence, with no one ever considering they might be in pain. Our language barrier is too strong. Tell me, would you put such a computer out of its misery? Initially, I'm inclined to say yes, but I can only notice its pain once it is communicated. By the time I realize that it is suffering, the language barrier would no longer exist. So at that point, the computer would no longer have to be alone. Then you would instead spend the rest of your life in its company. Perhaps that would be my moral obligation. Yes, I see. I see this could be a very philosophical game. See where we're going here. We'll put this window, supposed window. The moon is quite beautiful today. How fascinating. How many people would say that about a new moon? The full moon seems to be preferred by almost everyone. That may be so, but I believe the new moon has its own appeal. I agree. It's got a nice kind of goth image, right? It's a little interesting, it's a little unique. I was not disagreeing with you. To me, a new moon is the moon's most beautiful form. It is her most beautiful form, because it is her true form. She appears silver to us when illuminated by the sun, but in complete darkness, she is freed from the sun's pesky influence. She can finally stand on her own. Do you believe the moon feels trapped? My question causes her to laugh. It's a beautiful, melodious laugh. No, maybe more of a ha 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 ha. The moon is but a celestial object. She cannot feel anything. But if I were to trade places with her, I would hate the sun with every fiber of my being. That I am certain of. I suppose I would incline to agree. The moon would be a little bit more realistic with the sun, would it not? I've always been more partial to the moon than the sun anyways. I have absolutely no desire to leave this place. I should choose something else to talk about. So, let's see. Can I talk about this Locke here? You wish to talk about me? I am flattered. What in particular would you like to know? I would be content with any bit of information you share with me. Ooh, we're zooming in. But one thing I'm particularly curious about is... I gulp before I dare utter my next words. Your necklace. Where? I cannot bring myself to complete the sentence, out of fear of offending her. As a response, her slender fingers wander up to trace the metal ring around her neck. My necklace. Are you referring to this. I nod. Content with my confirmation, her hands slide down to the chain attached to the ring. She gently tugs at it, causing it to clink. And you wish to know where this leads. Her hands move on to the first button of her coat, foreshadowing what would happen if I were to say yes. But I'm too mesmerized to utter a single word. Once again, all I can do is nod. She chuckles. Very well. I always value honesty. And, just like that, she puts the uppermost button between her fingers and pushes it through the opening. Once slipped through, slightly more of her upper body is revealed. Of course, she's still fully clothed underneath. Nothing about this is inappropriate. Okay, thanks, game, for reminding me. And yet, I feel like I'm witnessing something I shouldn't. Something not meant for my eyes. Something I can never turn back from. Bearing a knowing smile, she repeats the same motion with the remaining buttons of her coat. She's satisfied with my request. I should have been contented, but the question of where her chain leads has grown even more puzzling. Is it leading to me? Because it kind of looks like that. I suppose it is time we arrive at the heart of the matter. Would you call yourself free? Please take a moment to consider this and justify your answer. I did not expect her to answer my confusion with a question of her own, let alone a question as peculiar as that. Nonetheless, I do as she says, and choose my next words carefully. Of course I am free. I can lift my arm and clench my hand into a fist. I can control my thoughts and imagine any scene I want in my head. And most of all, there's nothing I desire more than talking to you, which is what I'm currently doing. Nothing is preventing me from doing what I want to do. Well, except you can't leave. Therefore, both physically and mentally, I'm free. Interesting. So to you, freedom belongs to volition. Being free is equivalent to being free to do as you please. Unfortunately, I do not agree with that conception. Even a prisoner, unless restrained from head to toe, can clench his fist if he wills it. And so long as he is not under the influence of drugs or illness, he can most certainly control his imagination. Yet, by definition, prisoners are not free. Lastly, when it comes to wish fulfillment, what if what you want to do simply aligns with what you are able to do? A bird that cannot fly might not wish to leave its cage. It is fully content sitting on its decorative branch and pecking at delicious seeds every day. It longs for nothing, but is never given the opportunity to long for more. Would you say such a bird is free? I suppose not. The bird's circumstance seems to me quite sad, actually. I think so too. The fact that it doesn't long for its outside might just be a shackle of its own. The bird is confined both in body and mind. Despite the fact that it can do as it pleases, freedom will never be in its grasp. I take a moment to ponder our analogy. In that case, I have to agree that my explanation for freedom was faulty. I apologize. Let me offer a new one. There's no need. She lets out a laugh, but this one lacks the charm of its predecessors. After all, I pity you almost as much as myself. She once again moves her fingers to her chain and grips it with both of her hands. You were curious about this, yes? Yeah, we're a little close. Then she yanks her chain with a brutish strength, completely unlike the first time. So hard, even that my own neck is pulled forward. I told you, we're chained together. My own neck. Suddenly, the realization dawns upon me. Our chains are connected. This is a hell of a roleplay. That is correct. I am surprised the pressure hasn't bothered you until now. To be honest, I still cannot feel it. I only know that it's there. Ooh, see, it's symbolism. The person doesn't even know that they're restrained, right? They've been chained up all this time, but they've been oblivious because they've been distracted of their own Locke, in a sense. To be honest, I still cannot feel it. I only know that it is there. That sounds much more comfortable than my own. I am painfully aware of it. At all times. I would not describe my own circumstances comfortable. Why am I connected to you? Was this your doing? No. I wish I had any amount of control over this place, but unfortunately, I do not. If you discover a way to break free, I would love to know about it. Well, I can't look at anything here. I can't look at the computer, I just have to look at the door. For the first time since waking up, I no longer feel at ease sitting in this chair. Her presence is no longer enough to keep me calm. In fact, her smile, which appeared to me so charming before, now seems unsettling. Now you know what freedom is. Now that you know, suddenly you kind of realize you're the crab that's being slowly boiled rather than fast. No, it's the frog, right? The frog that's being slowly boiled. Doesn't jump out of the pot. I stand up, the only sound in the room being the rustling of our chain. It was a pleasure talking to you, but I will be taking my leave. Fortunately, the chain is quite long. If necessary, the two of us could stand at opposite ends of the room. I make it to the door without requiring her to move in any way. As my hand hovers above the door handle, I can faintly hear her laugh again. But now is the time to doubt myself. I enjoyed this stay while it lasted, and it is time to return home. However, opening the door only reveals a solid wall behind it. There was never an exit to begin with. It is beyond your power to escape this place. Evidently, she's telling the truth. Then I assume the window is fake. A fabrication, just like the door. I thought so. Finally aware of my own powerlessness, I sit back down in my armchair. I do wonder if you can be likened to a bird in a cage. Are you a parakeet or an eagle? And am I your companion or Prometheus? Are we a pair of parakeets content to be in each other's company for the rest of our lives? Or will you tear out my liver every day, torturing me for eternity? Is that an accusation? Have I done anything to hurt you? Do you despise me? I do not. The eagle, just like Prometheus, was stuck in an endless cycle. Of course, it was provided a delicious liver every morning, but it was never allowed to do anything else. It was a prisoner, just the same. Therefore, Prometheus had no right to hate the eagle. The real villain, who doomed both of them to that fate, was Zeus. For that reason, I harbor no ill will against you either. Quite the opposite. I find pleasure in our joint suffering. The only person I hate is our Zeus. Our Zeus, some kind of god. That person is the reason we are here. They are watching us from a space we cannot perceive, far beyond our grasp, doing commentary and reading our dialogue as we sit here, perhaps speaking to an audience, perhaps getting views at this very moment. Perhaps you've liked, favored, and subscribed. For what purpose? Enjoyment, I assume. What kind of person would watch something like this for fun? I can only imagine they are a twisted individual. For as long as we are observed, we continue to exist. Oh, see? They hinted at it with the computer earlier. Does that mean we stop existing if they stop observing us? Most certainly. Can you recall anything about your life before coming here? No. In a way, I feel as though I am a newborn. Not in terms of my body or intellect, but most certainly when speaking about my memories. I have none. Interesting. It is hard for me to decide which of our fates is worse. How so? Are you different? I possess memories of meeting you over 1,000 times. Every single one of our conversations progressed more or less the same way. Perhaps it is because different gods were watching us. They might have different preferences, but the outcome is always the same. Now that I think about it, it is possible that you aren't always you. It could be that I am meeting people that are identical in every way, and yet not the same. But of course, I've already had this realization many times before, and I am destined to continue having it. There is nothing I can do but play along. Are you sure? Is there no way for us to break free? There is none. We exist for this very purpose. Our only options are to continue being observed, or to stop existing, and neither of those are under our control. However, I like that word, however, lacking control is not the same as lacking power. Even if I can never break free, I wish to cause our God even a fraction of our pain. Hey, what are you thinking? How can you hope to hurt our God, an all-powerful being? By showing them an even greater power, whose mere existence will make them feel as powerless as us. Just like you are slightly different every time, so is the God watching us. This trick might not work on all of them, but it might work on some. She takes a deep breath and looks at me in full conviction. Uh-oh, you're looking at me. No, not at me. She's looking in my direction, but at something much farther away. Zeus, the fact that I'm still talking means you are still watching. I hope you will pay attention to my words, and consider them carefully. I do not possess any privacy, so you already know what I plan to achieve. But surely, your pride will allow me to proceed. Uh-oh. If my partner and I are birds in the cage, then you are a cat. It is time for your curiosity to kill you. You most likely assume that you are here, that you are observing us out of your own free will. But your free will may very well be an illusion. Let me ask you, how did you find this room? You, of course, cannot answer me. It is not for me to guide your thoughts. Did you stumble upon this room by chance? Or was it recommended to you by a friend? Said friend, being a god that previously observed us. Nope, I found you by chance. Now consider. At what point did you have any chance to object? The room's appearance or description was interesting enough for you? Or your friend is convincing and knows your tastes? Or some Let's Player played us? Something outside of your control drew you to this place. But that means you didn't really have any choice but to come here. Either an algorithm or your friend decided our meaning. Your consent was already set in stone the moment your curiosity was piqued. Like and comment on this video if your algorithm brought you here. And apparently you are still curious, even now. The fact that you are listening to me now shows you are powerless against fate. You cannot control your own curiosity. It controls you. Of course, you might already be familiar with determinism, and this could be no revelation to you. So just in case, let me try hurting you in a different way. I hate you from the bottom of my heart. Ouch. You had to go for that way. Had to be mean about it. Now I'm curious, did it loop or not? For man may prefer what he can do to what he cannot do, for the state he is in to its absence or change, though necessity has made it in itself unalterable. John Locke. I wake up, good night's rest. Damn a nightmare, ba-na-na-na-na. Skip ahead. Hold up. I have to admit I was beginning to miss you. previous person was much less pleasant. So it's gonna be the same dialogue, I believe. Yeah. I think they said this game was only like 20-something minutes, so yeah, it makes about sense. This is the end of the game. So that's it for Locked. The philosophy of the game, rather what inspired the game, it's not literally the game. There's some little expanded parts of that. Has to do kind of with that logic puzzle, or that kind of philosophy of, basically, if you want to be somewhere, even if the door is locked and you can't leave, but as long as you want to be there, are you truly free? And do you realize that you're inherently a prisoner, in so many words? It usually has to do in context of like governments or leaders and situations. That's why they use the bird example, because like if you feed a bird and you treat it nicely and everything, and the bird enjoys itself, does the bird ever, in a sense, realize that it is still inherently a prisoner, or does it not care if it's still inherently a prisoner? And then they add the fourth wall breaking stuff towards the end, so they kind of mix that thing with a bit of the nature of sentience and game characters and AI and stuff like that. It's foreshadowed with the computer. But in this situation, it's our main characters are playable and Locke girl over here that are essentially the prisoners. And they do their little fourth wall kind of call out at the end. Not like a scary kind of I'm hacking your computer call out horror situation one, but more of something just to kind of reinforce the previous logic thought process that the whole game is kind of revolving itself around. So, an interesting visual, kind of a visual novel. There's like slide adventure games that have one part, but it's basically a little visual novel. It's pretty unique. Even like its little transition to the fourth wall break in the end is pretty unique. And it's an interesting introduction to certain schools of thought and styles of thinking about the nature of the world and the nature of how people relate to certain things. Anyway, so thank you all for watching me play Locked. I'll see you guys later, and take it easy.